I woke up to the truth of the flat earth, shape of the earth, as an engineer and a pilot. So I've studied engineering, physics, 3 different ways: basic physics, electric physics, and construction physics. And also as a pilot, as a rotary wing pilot, that is helicopter pilot, I studied aeronautical physics as well. So I can cover and discuss just about any factor of flat earth. Not that I'm any smarter than anybody else, but I've studied quite a bit of factors that analyze shape and motion of just about any object. That's physics, also aeronautical physics, and principles of flight. I can tell you this: airplanes fly straight and level. That's even an aviation term, straight and level. Airplanes will fly for hours at the same altitude, never dipping their nose down to follow the curve of the earth. An aircraft on a 12-hour or even 18-hour flight from Portland, Oregon to Seoul, Korea, that would have that aircraft starting at one point and then flying so far around the earth that it's flying downwards with its nose vertically downwards, and then starting to go around the curve of the earth so that the airplane is now flying upside down. Would have to make that kind of a flight path on a globe, which is, it's such an absurdity. So that being said, I come into the true shape of the earth, the flat earth, as a skeptic, like most anyone else. I'll tell you my story. My buddy told me about this. He said, Rob, you need to learn about the ice ring. You need to learn that the earth doesn't move. This globe is garbage. And I laughed at him. I said, are you kidding me? I'm not even gonna look into that. He said, that's fine. He said, that's fine. You don't have to look into flat earth. But until you do, he said, until you do look into flat earth, you will remain a slave of the matrix. And interestingly enough, at this point, this was more or less November, December 2015. I had already mentally resigned from the U.S. military for 3 years. I had already resigned because of Benghazi. I realized, and I saw for myself, I'd been working with U.S. as an Army officer, working for State Department for a good 10 years. And so what I did, I turned my physics awareness, I turned my studies into analysis of the shape of the earth. Radar is simply another form of radio transmission. Radio includes anything within the range of the electromagnetic spectrum. Electromagnetic spectrum, also known as light. Radio is the transmission of light, whether it's visible light or radio waves which are not visible. When it comes to radio transmissions, there must be a transmitter and a receiver. There can be a reflector or a transmittal unit along the way. However, in the end, there's got to be at least transmitter and a receiver. And in the case of radar, radar transmits a signal and it bounces off a reflector, and then it comes back to the receiving station. Or it can go to other stations if they're set up in the network properly. Long story short, radar emits a signal, it bounces off something, and then it returns to a receiving unit, and the receiving unit maps that reflection accordingly. If there is no reflector, then there's no return signal, and then the object does not show up on the radar. For example, it's off the screen. Notice, there's no curving around anything. It goes out in a straight line. Radio signals always travel in a straight line. So the transmitter sends the signal out to the target, bounces off, and it comes back in a straight line. Radar cannot travel over the curve, and hence radar is dependent on line of sight, direct beam from the transmission to the target. It reflects and it comes straight back. There is no curving around anything, thus is radar.
Again, as far as ADIs, in every aircraft, it references the level horizon or references sea level always. There's no way that you can convince somebody of sound mind that if you take off from New York and immediately flip upside down, now your housing or your ADI is referencing upside down to you because you're upside down. It's right side up. it cannot deviate off level. It doesn't matter how much fuel you got in your tanks. It doesn't matter if you're a helicopter or an aerostat or a fighter jet. That gauge will always reference level. It has to, because otherwise it would be a poor reference. And if you could manipulate it, why would you even have it in the airplane or your aircraft? But if you go take off 2 miles away, do a barrel roll, you're now flying upside down. At what point does that gauge show you back right side up? A half a hemisphere away? Is that what we're led to believe? Is that what we're supposed to believe? At what point does it right itself if you never flipped back over and continue flying level? You see what I'm saying? It's ridiculous. It's ludicrous to think that thing compensates for curvature in straight and level flight.
When it comes to a deception this big, it's hard to dismiss. And for the people that say, I don't see how this would affect me either way, you don't know. It's like telling me about Argentina when you've never been there. Or it's like telling me about owning a Corvette when you've never driven one. You haven't experienced it. And if you have been through the Flat Earth Awakening, you know how it would affect you. This quite possibly may be the biggest awakening of mankind. Think about it. If you believe in this mass fallacy, you've been robbed of some senses and you don't even realize it. You don't trust your sense of touch or feel. You don't trust your sense of sight. You've been told the Earth wobbles, spins, and orbits, but you don't feel a thing. You've been told that sunsets can't exist on a flat and stationary plane, but you don't understand the vanishing point of the law of perspective? After it's possible to understand and decode a mass deception, it becomes a lot easier to understand other lies. It opens your eyes and raises your discernment. So when it comes to lies like JFK, the moon landing, chemtrails, fluoridation, 9/11, etc., this is one of the most important factors of life I've ever been awakened up to. If it's possible to open your mind to this, your receptors will connect so much faster and stronger than you've ever experienced in your life. Understanding the ground you walk on every day and the luminaries that go over your head every day, which I still don't understand all of its entirety, can change your life forever. Knowing you are specifically, intelligently, and uniquely designed, so you know mentally, physically, and spiritually your vibration, energy, and frequency of life. So don't act like this doesn't matter. We've been lied to on a mass caliber. We can prove we live on a flat and stationary plane with observable, repeatable, testable experiments with data, hypothesis, and conclusions without depending on blind faith, indoctrinated, religious, theoretical, nihilistic, opinionated philosophies. That's the difference.